Once you get down there, you want to hop along the platforms on your right, steadily working your way to the other side. Once you get back to solid ground, you want to turn off to the left, and you'll see your first enemy in the game, known as a Scotula. These fearsome spiders were in the last game as well, but they're a little harder this time around. They hang from the ceiling and come down once you get close, but if you get too close, they'll hit you with a spinning attack. This means that spinning into them yourself isn't really an option. Title advises that you hit their soft backsides, so you want to wait until it turns around, and then shoot it in the back with a bubble to defeat it. Now, alternatively, you could just walk in the shallow water right next to it and avoid it entirely. Oh. Now, just a quick note about pronunciation. I just spent several hours trying to figure it out, and now I'm so confused. You see, in Japanese, it's pronounced Suterutura, which roughly translates to skull insect. The ch in Japanese translates to t in English, and the u is kind of a mix between and u, just as the r is a mix between and u. Are you as confused as I am yet? Because my vote is to just say it however you want. It's just a game, and it doesn't really matter. Anyway, after you've killed it, you want to run into the next little room to find a ladder that is being guarded by a balloon, of all things. Silly bombers, you need a more high-tech security system than that. Pop this obstacle with a bubble, and then spin through the jars for some recovery hearts in case you got hurt, as well as some magic jars to restore that lovely green bar underneath your health. You want to climb up the ladder and ignore the stuff that's in this downstairs area, and why is this building connected to the sewers anyway? Instead, you want to take the colorful ramp-like stairs nearby all the way up to the top, and then run around to the side. This rainbow-themed place with the happy music is the Astral Observatory that the Great Fairy and the Bombers mentioned. You'll find an old dude around the side who likes to stand entirely too close for comfort, who's named Professor Shikashi. Apparently, the Skull Kid has been up to no good here as well, and threatened to break some of his instruments and steal the Professor's moon sphere, which is in the nearby glass case. You have better manners, such as not standing too close to anyone when they're talking to you, so he'll let you look through the telescope if you like. Why, thank you very much. He even mentions that he's seen the Skull Kid on top of the clock tower itself. Really? Once you're looking through the telescope, you can aim around with the analog stick and then look at the top of the clock tower. Press A to zoom in, which initiates this little scene, and sure enough, the Skull Kid is up there, but he glances at the moon, so Link pans the telescope up there. I don't know why it's such a coincidence that this action would cause this to happen, but the moon then has a flaming meteor which falls from its eye, which is obviously one of those rare moon spheres. Link looks back at the Skull Kid, who makes a rude gesture, and then disappears after a moment. That's all we had to do here, but before you leave, I do want to point out one more thing. If you look off to the left, you can see a guy doing jumping jacks in the tall grass. We'll actually meet him later, but he's looking for a safe place to hide from the moon. If you look off to the right, you can also see him atop one of those pillars in the eastern portions of Termina Field as well. When you're all done here, press the B button to stop using the telescope, and Professor Shikashi will tell you to go outside the nearby door to get the moon sphere, and then he'll idly wonder aloud about how the Skull Kid got on top of the clock tower to begin with. Apparently the only way up there is to climb up these stairs that appear on the eve of the Carnival of Time. That's cool, now we know how to get up there, and so now we know where to go next. But that line of reasoning technically doesn't make any sense, because wouldn't that mean the Skull Kid couldn't have gotten up there until a few days from now? Probably he just levitated up there, since we already know he can do that. Anyway, go outside and snag the moon sphere like the professor told you to. It's blue and shiny! We're all done here, so go back through the door and run all the way back to Clocktown. Once you finally make it back to South Clocktown, you want to approach the big Deku flower here, which makes a business scrub rush in, claiming that he owns this particular flower and has the paperwork to prove it. Now, most likely you already investigated this flower out of pure curiosity, because you wanted to just see where it would lead to. So he's probably already standing here. I actually avoided touching this flower on purpose so that I could save this little scene for now. If you speak with him, he explains that he's already sold everything he had to sell here, and he wants to go back home. Before he does that, though, he would like to purchase a souvenir for his wife, something shiny and beautiful like a moon sphere. What a coincidence. This is our first trading sequence, and it works a little bit differently than any other Zelda title. In this one, you want to speak with him, and when it prompts you, you have the option to press the Start button to open up your items menu. You want to hover over the item you'd like to trade, press that C button in order to put it there, press the Start button again to go back to the conversation, and then while still talking to the business scrub, press that C button. This will trade the item and allow Link to do that. This is a little bit funky to get used to, but it's pretty intuitive once you understand how it works, and a lot of people find this very confusing about this game, and understandably so, since it's different than all the other games in the series. Anyway, the business scrub is very excited by this, and this is exactly what he was looking for, and his life will simply love it. He'll then give you the land title deed, which means that you now own this particular Deku flower, and you can use it whenever you like. He'll then fly away very slowly. It's time to go make a sandwich. And you can play with this Deku flower if you like, but we don't have to until later, so I'm actually going to go skip that for now, and we'll come back and use this at a later time. Next, you want to run over to West Clocktown and enter the middle doorway that is on the left side here, which is the second white dot on your minimap. This is the trading post, which is pretty much open all the time, though they do close for an hour at a time so that the owner can sneak off and run the nearby curiosity shop. He actually owns both of these shops. Anyway, inside you, there's a talking scarecrow next to the door, and this character is named Pierre, and he simply loves music. Anyway, by chatting with him, he'll immediately ask you if you'd like to dance with him, and if you agree, you'll be able to move forward in time to the next 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. You should dance with him repeatedly until you're on the night of the final day. It's kind of annoying because you have to do it a bunch of times, but it saves a lot more time than simply waiting around. Once you do reach the night of the final day, the Scarecrow will evacuate Clocktown like most of the other residents, meaning that we can't dance with him again. Also, whenever you stop talking to him, he always asks you if you would like to learn about a mysterious song. Now, if you say yes, he will then vaguely describe 2 hidden songs in this game. Once we get our ocarina back, we can use these hidden songs to manipulate time and aid us in accomplishing various tasks, as well as speeding up instances where we have to wait around for a while. So it's kind of like the song from the previous game, but a lot more useful. Also, he departs us with one more interesting tidbit, saying that if we ever want to try out a new song on him, he'd be very excited to hear it. This is actually him vaguely describing a 3rd hidden melody called the Scarecrow Song, which you can invent yourself, but I'll explain more about that in detail later on in the walkthrough. Anyway, after that, he'll spin into the dirt and disappear. Goodbye, Pierre. If you go back outside, you can look up at the sky to see that the moon is now gigantic. It's been steadily growing as well as getting closer to Clocktown, and more recently it's been doing this even faster than before. The townspeople fear that it'll crash into the city and destroy everything, so most of them have fled to the countryside to seek shelter. So the clock tower opens on the eve of the Carnival of Time, which starts at 12 a.m. on the final night. This means we have about 6 hours to burn, and as long as we're waiting, we should go collect some rupees. You can do this by spinning through the bushes in North Clocktown and re-entering the area repeatedly to make the bushes reappear, but it's kind of a slow process. Now, you can make rupees faster out in Termina Field, but the guards won't let you outside. Now, one glitch you can do is to stand next to the guard in East Clocktown and Z-target somewhat towards the center of the square, then hold backwards on the analog stick and move along either the left or right side of the guard himself where he's standing. And if you do it at the right angle, you should be able to kind of squeeze through because we're on a ramp. It's kind of a weird little deal, and you'll be able to get out into Termina Field early as a deku scrub. Yay! Now, in general, I disapprove of using glitches in video games, and in particular in my walkthroughs, because I just don't feel it's very appropriate and disrupts the general flow of things. However, in this case, we're just waiting around, so we might as well make it worth our while. And when we re-enter Clocktown, everything will continue as usual, so it's kind of like, why not? Now, there's tons of grass circles out here, and they often drop blue rupees, which are worth 5, so you can collect rupees much faster this way as you circle your way around the field. Also, for some strange reason, there are no enemies in Termina Field right now, so you can easily run around and get rupees. I suppose this is just because it's the first 3 days and we're not really supposed to be out here yet, whatever. When it starts getting close to around 10 p.m., or you start getting close to 100 rupees, because that's the limit you have right now, you should rush back to West Clocktown, which is the entrance that I took to get back inside. In this part of town, there's a character known as the Banker who will allow you to deposit money into an account. This is an interesting feature that is very appropriate for this game, as you'll quickly find out. He complains that nobody saves their money these days, or even uses the bank. To stimulate people saving their money, he's giving out rewards at specific rupee amounts, and he vaguely describes a wallet upgrade that you can get once you reach 200 rupees. We'll be getting that in the next chapter, but just deposit as many rupees as you can for now, and we'll be a little closer to that goal. He'll then stamp you with a special ink that allows him to recognize you, but in other words, this just sets up your account. Whenever you talk to him from now on, he'll let you know how much money you have saved up, and you can either deposit or withdraw rupees whenever you like, so that's pretty sweet, and we'll be using this frequently throughout this game. Well, that's pretty much everything we had to do here, so join me for the next video, and we'll confront the Skull Kid. Wahahaha!